So, Frank, so we talked about their process, and partly in that the therapist, we actually moved into that sort of the therapist's personal response to what was going on in that scenario that you gave. But yeah, so we've done techniques, process, and then you said therapist's personal issues. So would you like to talk a bit more about that and how that influences supervision?
Yes, yeah, and I'd be interested actually to tease out with you here, you know, where the boundaries lie, because I do think that it has to be very boundaried. You know, you're
Okay.
not there to offer therapy to your supervisees.
Okay.
But I think you can't completely, you know, disentangle it all the time. So, for example, I've had several supervisees who've gone through a bereavement whilst, you know, and have
Working.
wobbled, you know, and have had to think about how well they were to do the work, and you know whether aspects of the work, you know, maybe needed to be left to others and things like that.
Right.
Um,
And
so
so how
that, you
is,
know, I mean, that's just,
what
I
do
mean,
you do as a supervisor then in that issue? Let me be one of the audience here. In that issue where you've got a therapist wobbling in front of you who's carrying, you know, clients or patients that are out there, you know, how does the supervisor sort of respond and work with that? How did you find that?
well, I think you have to be ready to put it on the table fundamentally. Um, and if necessary, you may need at some stage. I don't think I've ever kind of quite got there yet, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe by more, you know, good fortune than good sense kind of. But I've never felt. I really don't think this, but I think I should tell this person to step down, take time out, get treatment or whatever. But I've
Uh-huh.
been close to that. So that'd be one of the things that you're actually looking at there. But I think also, you know, generally speaking, the supervisees have been glad to be able to tell me about it, and whilst not getting therapy from me, at least getting, you know, an empathic and understanding uh, uh, response to it. But then there are the specific things where obviously, you know, you may have a client who presents grief as a problem, and you need to think through about what, you know, what you're going to do about that, and that might be a separate issue from stepping down from the work entirely. It might be an issue about stepping down from particular types of the work. And
Yes.
that shades into the organizational side of things, which is something I'm going to come to in a moment.
Okay.
And probably the more common thing, though, is, and it kind of slightly surprised me this, but yeah, the theme of lacking confidence, therapeutic confidence, you know, has come up, you know, quite frequently, I would say. And, you know, I can understand it because, you know, even me, having done this work for years and years, I go through some wobbles in my confidence and think I don't know anything, you know, for
Yeah.
certain periods of time. And, you know, it's such complex work, and there's so many things that you might come across. And it's only in relatively recent years I've started to find I don't get many entirely new things offered to me at
Right.
the moment. And I think
Right.
that's quite reassuring for my supervisors. I can, you know, most of the things they're going to tell me about, I'll have had a client or several clients, and can get somewhere, you know, somewhere on the map with them. But I don't know. I wonder if there is an issue in perhaps even in basic therapist makeup, you know, that there is, you know, perhaps a little bit of self-doubt in many of us, you know, and it could be that there's some sort of root of empathy in that, actually, because nobody wants a therapist who, you know, you go along and says to you, well, I know exactly what that's all about, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. You wouldn't believe it, for a start. So there's something about the, you know, your own vulnerability which helps you to be a good therapist, I think. And I was
so it's
very
sort of respectful on the one hand, the doubt, which you might say, the sort of respectful. But, you know, I'm also wondering, it makes me wonder, when you've sort of been looking in your records, whether there's maybe a particular kind of client or a kind of problem that therapists get confronted with that might activate that self-doubt more than others. And I don't, you know, you probably, you know, may not have reviewed the notes thoroughly to spot that, or whether that's there. I mean, what's your sense of that then?
Yeah, I think I think it is the more difficult clients who bring that out. And, you know, so you do get some clients who are, you know, have a narcissistic element to them. And, you know, I mean, I actually had a client who said to me, I don't think you're good enough to deal with my problem. You know, this was after I've been doing it for about 30 years. Hadn't had enough experience yet to deal with him. So,
but how honest is that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it was great. Fortunately, it made me laugh, you know, which is probably the best response to it. But yeah, I think, in fact, I'm just thinking of an interesting thing, which I think, you know, comes into your court a bit there.
Yeah.
One of my supervisors has said to me that she attained the status of cognitive behavior therapist via the KSA route. Is that right?
Go on, tell me more.
Knowledge, skills, and something or other.
Attitudes, or something?
Yeah, it's kind of like, almost like accreditation of prior learning, as opposed to a bona fide degree kind of thing.
I see, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, when she gets challenged, that's the thought she seems to have sometimes, you know, well, I'm only a KSA CBT therapist, you know.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I've got all my terminology right there, but so
sort of key performance indicators, or I don't know, key skills. Yes, I know what you mean, but or competencies.
In fact, as you know, I mean, my therapeutic career goes back quite a way, and I can remember somebody saying to me quite early on in my career, actually, she said, it was actually a man, he said, you know, some clients need an opponent worth having.
Right.
Which, you know, I think there is an element of that. You know, clients do sometimes test you out. Well, we'll give him that and see what he makes of that, you know. And then if he handles that all right, I'll tell him the real stuff, you know.
Yes.
There are all kinds of interesting dynamics going on.
Yes,
which is why I think the process of therapy is so important, you know, and is been a bit under researched in CBT.
Yes, and I'd say, you know, my gut feeling there is that's quite a male thing to say as well, isn't it? It's the male tussle sort of thing, opponent worth having. So I could see how that might particularly work with men.
Can I just not challenge but question that? I mean,
go on.
I feel you know what that means, though.
Oh, definitely.
You personally.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I have to tussle sometimes to sort of get the point or something. Okay. All right.